Thanks, Kavya. Hans, you have a busy day ahead. So without further ado, I'll just jump straight into the discussion. The business
Absolutely.
case of ESG is well known, and your company is at the forefront of the ESG movement. But is sustainability a competitive advantage and not just a compliance exercise? How do you look at this debate?
I think that when I start thinking about sustainability, I go back a little bit how we create a strategy in a corporation. And when we created our latest strategy for 2018, we decided that we're going to have a North Star for all our four stakeholders: consumers or customers, employees, society, and shareholders, because they are hanging together in a system that making a corporation being successful over time. And when we outline our North Star in the society aspect, we decided that it can only be things that is part of our strategy. I usually say I like philanthropy, you should do it a lot, but this is not philanthropy I'm discussing right now. It's part of our main strategy to actually serve our society as well, in order to see that we are a holistic company that actually are progressing forward. And that's where sustainability come in. In our case, we picked three areas where we think that's part of our strategy: digital inclusion, climate protection, and human prosperity. All three of them are part of how we are building our company going forward, with broadband technology, digital literacy, in order to improve that in our society. So that's how we created it. So definitely sustainability is part of your main strategy going forward. And that's what's creating a long-term company that's actually going to prosper with all your stakeholders in a society of today.
So how you align corporate strategy and sustainability in Verizon? How is the board engaged to sustainability movement?
So what we're doing in Verizon is that our main strategy is based on the success of four stakeholders and in targets in all these areas, both short-term, yearly targets, and 5-year targets. And then we review them, and those targets were set for ourselves with the board, and also conversation with the board. The targets for shareholders are pretty simple. It's our revenue growth, it's our profit growth, and the share price development. Those are things that with the employees is the empowerment and the satisfaction with our employees. The same goes to consumer. In the society aspect, we have been working with the targets we have. So we outline targets in the three areas I talked about, and then you start putting action to them. All that is equally much reviewed as our financial metrics with the board. We are also outlining it with the board when it comes to sustainability and all the ESG targets we have. In today's world, if I go out with a guidance on my financials for the year or for a 5-year growth number, that's something that's followed up every day. We do exactly the same for sustainability. When we came out with a 2035 net zero CO2 emission, we had worked a way backward with our technology, with the data consumption, with the power consumption, and how we would get there. And we measure it yearly, and we're actually reporting it constantly. So we treat those targets equally important as any targets, because they are part of how we are seen outside and also inside, and how we deliver on the four stakeholders we have in the company.
Verizon has just settled its third green bond offering of $1 billion. What I find interesting is basically the whole Verizon green financing framework which you have built and around which you work. How does it help the company drive the sustainability agenda? And what's really interesting is, I was going through the reports, you added diversity commitments to the framework. That's something very new.
You're right. You use your company and part of the strategy. So I will just explain. So the green bond, we have just done the third green bond for $1 billion. This is the third billion we're doing. So in the work we were doing up to our targets that we have in 2035, and we have a mid-year, we have also a target of 2025 when it comes to our use of electricity. We found out we need to actually be much better in certain areas, and we finance that by bringing money. So basically, a small portion is going to refurbish our offices to be more green, etc. But we also, the main part is going to renewable energies, VPAs that we buy in order for see that is developed in the market, because not all our premises is in the right place for green energy. But if we start encouraging, we're going to build up the grid. That's our thinking, and that's why we use our power of lending only to that. At the same time, when we do lending, we also see that we are distributing our lending opportunities equal to all the stakeholders. We have been very focused on minority-owned banks during our time. And remember also we did a large transaction earlier this year of over $30 billion when we financed our spectrum, where we brought in 11 minority-owned banks to be part of the lending. So that's again hanging together with the diversity targets that we have and our commitment to our employees and to our society. Again, you can do that if you do it as part of the strategy, and that's what we're doing.
So how do you personally review the sustainability efforts? I mean, how much time do you spend with the chief sustainability officer? What I find is when I speak to CEOs, they spend a lot of time with the CFO, with a lot of time with the marketing guys, a lot of time with the operations guys. Sustainability doesn't get that kind of attention. How do you personally look after?
My life is keeping track on every hour. I have been the last 11 years. I've been measuring every hour I work in order to see that I spend time proportionally on where my business are and where my challenges are. So that means that I have certain times I'm going to spend only on the society and the ESG strategy equally much as I have on my shareholders, my employees, and my customers. That's how a CEO is operating in today's environment. I cannot compromise in between this and saying it's more important to doing that. There can be times where I need to spend more time with one of them, but overall, there's no things like, hey, this is more important than the other right now, so I cannot really focus on it. That is not part of the strategy. The sustainability strategy and the ESG strategy of Verizon is part of my daily work. And in my capacity today, I'm both the CEO and chairman. So from that reason, I spend a lot of time thinking about where we're going as a company. Our investors are asking us constantly about different things in the ESG world. But as I said before, we are following up and reporting that internally and externally equally as we do the financial data. That's important because we want to be showing the commitment and being transparent. Then it's a little bit more nascent the way we're reporting ESG compared to the financial. But they are picking up and they will go there over time.
I think what Verizon has done really well is basically take a concept like ESG and build it into every part of business. It's not just one function or one department. I was going through the reports, and the really interesting part is how this is growing into the core of the business.
No, you're right. If I talk to my supply chain team, that probably is one of the biggest procurers in the whole United States, they have clearly a focus on buying from minority-owned suppliers and seeing that we always give them a chance, or even sometimes supporting them to exceed. We still need the highest standard because we are Verizon. But you also need to think about the power we have in all that purchasing to influence our suppliers to do the right thing with labor, with environment and everything, because ultimately that's our responsibility, not only for Verizon as such, it's also the whole ramification of what we're doing of suppliers, partners, etc. And that work can only start that you have a North Star, what you want to do as a corporation, and then it flows down in every unit and every decision. And to be perfectly honest, when it comes to the Treasury Department and doing bonds, them themselves were clear that we need minority-owned banks to do it. I mean, it was nothing I came up with. They innovate that because they understand that this is part of the core strategy of the company, that we have a shareholder, we have a customer, we have employees, and we have society. And let's see that we move them together forward towards our long-term targets to serve all four of them.
You're the chair of the Edison Alliance, and the ongoing pandemic, if you see, it's put a spotlight on the importance of digital inclusion to the world. What are the kind of policies, ecosystems, collaborations you're putting in place so that it takes off really well?
So just backwards a little bit with the Edison Alliance. I started to work with the Millennium Development Goals in 2007, 2008, where I saw the power of being connected, meaning if you're not connected, you're not part of a society. You don't have a chance to get telehealth, remote learning, or getting information in general. And of course, when the SDGs were defined, I was fighting for goal 18, which was mobility, broadband, and cloud for every citizen in the world in order to get the same chance regardless where they come from. We all know that that didn't happen. There are no 18 goals or 17. They're, of course, underpinned by it. When we then saw the COVID-19 spreading across the world with devastating impact on people, we saw a silver lining, of course. It was a leapfrog 5 to 7 years of digital transformation, things that we have talked about, that we wanted to happen, at least from my horizon, meaning telemedicine, remote learning, financial inclusion virtually, in order for people to operate and have jobs regardless where they are, return to work. I came back to my idea of actually the goal 18. And in conversation with the World Economic Forum, we decided to formulate one of the main projects of World Economic Forum for the years to come, is to make that happen together with public-private companies. I have the greatest private companies on the earth, CEOs being part of it. We're focusing on 3 different dimensions. One is education, another is healthcare, and the third one is financial inclusion in a digital world. And seeing that we take best practices, advocacy across the globe, and even finding models. Right now, we're working on financing on digital inclusion, bonds, and trying to replicate that around the world. We have talked about subsidy models for the governments for affordability that's going to be spread. So we are just in the first inning, as they say here in the United States, on this. But we have high ambitions, very high ambitions, and I'm honored to be the chairman of that alliance. In order to bring it forward, because I have a deep conviction that we can make this world a better place for many, many more people if we make them included in our society when it comes to learning, work, education, and information in general. And that's the work we need to do. And I think we've learned it during the COVID-19 that is actually working to have it, because not everyone will have the luxury as I had. I was born in the northern part of Sweden. The school was 5 minutes away. The hospital was 3 minutes away. Not everyone will have that. And I really want everybody to have this opportunity. It might be virtual, but it has to be there for each and every of the citizens of this country, of this world.
You're doing so much on the sustainability front. There's also a business opportunity from sustainability. You have a connected solutions business that helps companies reduce their carbon footprint. Do you also see that for telecom and tech companies, this whole sustainability movement could be a big business opportunity as well?
I think that over time, as Verizon, we have the biggest direct-to-consumer business in the United States. I probably have 120 million consumers using my business every day. I think it's obvious that over time and already today, our customers, our consumers, going to think about how sustainable are we, how are we thinking about sustainability and everything we're doing. So this is just of essence of that you're actually investing. And you cannot do it when people start asking you. This is a long term. We're a large corporation. You need to think about it right now. You need to invest right now. That's why we do the green bonds. We do all of that. So that's important. From a business point of opportunity, I think it's a differentiation for your brand, that you stand up for sustainability in the areas where you feel that is right for you as a corporation. It has to hang together with your strategy. And that's what we're doing. And we're going to hammer that. And we think that's the recipe for success for all our stakeholders. That we do right for all our stakeholders. It's going to benefit all our stakeholders over time.
So, when I see companies like Verizon doing a lot of stuff on sustainability, they're part of a group or a bunch who are basically thought leaders in this space. But the other part of the equation is the government part. They've been talking about it for about 10, 15 years, and nothing much has happened on that part. As someone who's a practitioner in this field, what more should the government do to make results more, to make sure that we get better results and overall it can have a positive impact on the globe?
I think we as business leaders need also to think that the environment has changed. I mean, I remember the Edelman report coming out some 3 years ago with the 100 most influential organization in the world, and the majority was private companies, and we were one of them. I have sometimes a stronger voice than countries themselves and our organization. So we need to realize that, and we need to act upon that. That doesn't mean I'm a country or I should do something like a country, but in the areas I can do, I should do. Then, of course, there are private-public partnerships. The Edison Alliance is one of them, where we try to take the best of each other in order to bring it forward. We understand the political arena is very different from running a company. And we just need to understand each other, how we can help each other to move forward, because it's the best interest for all the citizens if we do it together. That's no doubt about that. And in these times, even more, when we have more people having a tough time due to COVID, economies, downturn, and all of that. And we see more people actually going backwards when it comes to the SDGs than forward that we saw before COVID-19. It's a huge responsibility for public and private companies to actually work together to move that forward, because we will not benefit from a society which is divided and uneven. We're going to fail as corporations over time on that. So we have an equally much responsibility to be part of that journey. And that's what we try to do in Verizon. That doesn't mean we do everything. We can solve all problems, but we need to take our responsibility seriously, and we do. And my team is doing a great job here. I'm just part of it.
If we look at this whole startup ecosystem, startups like Tesla have really changed the game in automotive. Do you think in sustainability also we need a set of startups basically who are game changers, who can make a positive impact and who can really make the difference?
I think we're going to have it. And I think that we see a lot of innovation around green energy. We just talked about the green bonds, things like that. That's innovation. That's new ways. Maybe it's not a new company every time. It could be a new process that enables things to use. I think about using the wireless network for the grid, for seeing how you can have power banks in the network, etc. So there's a lot of innovation, not necessarily a sort of a Tesla that is just so big. We need many of those in order to combat the climate protection over time. So I see more and more of them. Maybe we should have done more earlier, but I don't think it's a lack of initiative from corporations, small companies right now. I think that everybody is very focused on this.
Okay, my last question, I think we've run out of time. Basically, if we see on the management table, when you are deciding on internal capital allocation decisions, how do you make the finance team and the sustainability team sit on the same table and be on the same page?
I just tell them to be on the same table. No, you're good. But again, it comes back to where you set your priorities, the strategies of the companies, the stakeholders you try to give support. And for us, the sustainability piece is part of it. The shareholders is definitely part of it. Our customers is definitely part. And our employees as well. I mean, I need to think about all four of them constantly in order to be a holistic company in today's world. The 21st century's enterprises need to have that. I'm not saying that we are perfect. We still have a lot of work to be done. But at least having that in a mindset, becomes very normal for our financial team to sit down with our sustainability team, because they can discuss it. So I think we have established that, and we're moving forward from that one. We have much more to do, and seeing that we bring this success to all our stakeholders. But clearly, you need to start from the top and have a clear ambition in all the stakeholders that you're managing, and targets, and follow them up.
Thank you so much for spending time out of your busy schedule for this discussion. Really love what Verizon is doing, and what your thought process is on the topic. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.